Everyone, welcome back to the channel, The College Process. Once again, I'm Ed from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be going, like we do every Friday typically, we're going to be going in, checking your questions and answering your questions here in video format and sending it back to you guys so everyone has detailed answers to all the questions. So if anyone has questions going forward, once again, you know the format, just leave your questions in any of the videos, and I'll answer them every Friday for you guys and put it back here on YouTube. That being said, let's start off with the first question here from 2 weeks ago, because I missed the last week here. My dad is retired and only gets Social Security money, which is pretty low, yet he has $600,000 in, I guess, assets that he doesn't want to touch. Is that going to mess up my FAFSA? Well, it depends. It really depends on a few factors. One of the factors it depends on is what school you're looking to apply to. Most Social Security isn't counted anyways, as far as financial aid consideration. So the reality is if you only have Social Security income and no other income whatsoever, your financial aid numbers for what they expect you to pay towards college is going to be very low to begin with. Yes, the $600,000 would affect it, but it depends on what the $600,000 is. If it's $600,000 in a house that he's a primary owner of and he lives there, doesn't count. If it's retirement assets, doesn't count. If it's a rental property, it does count. If it's, let's say, stocks, bonds, mutual funds outside retirement, it does count. So there's various ways this will or will not affect you. But as far as him having Social Security, that should provide you a pretty good amount of financial aid assistance, basically across the board for almost any school, whether it be public or private. Next question here comes in. Let me just make this question bigger because it looks like a little bit more to it. Working full time, but can barely afford anything. I'm waiting to get accepted into college and loan offers. When I do get accepted, should I continue to scrape by as long as I can get food in my stomach? Or should I pull out like $10,000 that I have in savings so I can afford things and survive? I can also stack it up as well because I don't have many things I need to buy right now. How does this sound? Is this a fantasy or legit? I'm not sure what your question is here, to be honest with you, but if you're asking, does it make sense to get a loan? It depends on many factors. I can't really answer that question specifically with just this question here. But typically what you're looking for when it comes to college is obviously finding the lowest available opportunities for yourself at the lowest cost basis for the college. But if you're just barely scraping by, I'm not sure if I want to waste the savings I have of $10,000 on college unless I have a specific game plan in place. Now, taking out loans might not be a bad idea to bridge the gap between not having to use the savings and being able to have that just in case it's an emergency fund, and using a loan to basically help pay for the college costs, which might be an idea you might want to consider. Because obviously for many student loans, you guys can take anywhere from 10, 15, 20, even 30 years in some cases to pay back the student loans. Where if there's an emergency, tricky part is if you waste the $10,000 in savings, you might not have that available for you. So hopefully that answers your question. Based on your situation, I might consider doing loans, considering the fact that that seems to be the only money you have, that $10,000 is an emergency fund just in case. And I would consider maybe going loans so they can basically extend out the time period of having to pay that money back and having to spend the money we have already, rather than utilizing the assets we have already in hand. Okay, next question here. Hi, Ed, what happens if student sub loan is taken out and outside scholarships come in during the semester that makes the loan unnecessary? Can the scholarship money pay off the loan, or will the loan be removed or decreased? Second question, if the student decides to transfer for sophomore year, is it possible to get merit scholarships? Well, the first question, the way it works is if you guys get outside money coming in from scholarship funds, what typically will happen is if it generates a refund, yes, they're going to give you the money back. As far as you're going to be generating a refund, it gets sent directly to the student. Then you guys can technically utilize that money to pay back the loans if you want to. Now, if that money from the scholarship is going over the cost of attendance, so it's basically giving you guys more money than you need financial aid-wise entirely, then yes, technically the school could look to basically reduce your loan funds, because the first thing to look to reduce is the loan funds, because that's essentially, in the world of financial aid, the worst kind of financial aid, obviously, because you have to pay it back. So it's going to depend. If you're under the cost of attendance, it just generates a refund. Nothing will happen to the loan. If it goes over the cost of attendance, it will very likely, what will happen is the school will lower your loan funds and send a portion of it back. Okay. And then the second question here, what happens if your student transfers? There are scholarships if students transfer. Typically, their scholarship money as a transfer student, they usually cut the scholarships in half. So the highest scholarship available at a certain school is $10,000 for incoming freshmen. For a sophomore or junior transfer, et cetera, they typically start the scholarships half that. So $5,000 would be the max they would give out rather than $10,000, because you're not starting off there as a freshman. So just things to think about. I would ask the admissions office as well, what would be the highest transfer scholarships available at the schools you're considering? All right, next question here from 9 days ago. I got a Parent Plus loan for $16,000. I opted out to pay 6 months after I graduated. What if I pay now instead? Would I still be paying interest? Well, the way the Parent Plus loan works is essentially as soon as the money gets generated, or basically what's called originated at the college. So you apply for the Parent Plus loan, the college basically says, yes, we'll take the money in. And then sometime in the near future, typically around the end of September, they actually take the money in from the lender. At that point in time, the interest does start. So whether you guys are electing to pay it while you're in school or not in school, whether you deferred or not, the interest is still growing the moment it's originated at the college. So if you're looking to make any payments, it will help out as far as reducing the interest it's gaining on itself, as well as also reducing the principal amount as well for you. So yes, if you can make any payments in the meantime, while your student's in school, I would be making payments. All right, next question here coming in from 8 days ago. I think you forgot to add that parent loan needs to be awarded by the college. We failed to award this year's cost. My kid did not meet SAP. Well, the way it works is, especially for Parent Plus loans or any loans or any grant money or anything whatsoever, when it comes to any financial aid, especially if it's federal or state aid, if the student is not making satisfactory academic progress, SAP of a 2.0 or higher, you can't get any financial assistance in it at all, to be honest with you. The only thing you can actually do to help out your cause, to help pay for that, would be a private loan. A private loan would be the only loan you'd really be able to take out if your student is not making SAP. So unfortunately, yes, for federal and state aid, if you're not making SAP 2.0 or higher GPA, there is no financial assistance, no grants, no scholarships, no work study, etc. Unfortunately. Next question here. Is family size considered at all? I realize they're doing away with benefits of having more than one student in college, but what about when the family has many children at the home? The answer is it depends on what you're asking me from this perspective. There's three different people giving you money. There's the federal government, the FAFSA people. There's the state that you reside in, which is basically state aid, and then there's the school's money. Now, the school's money and the state money, these do care about how many students you have in college and how many people you have in a household and everything else. Where the federal side, the first guys here, don't really care about the other students in school. They do care about household size, though. That does count as far as helping out. But the reality is, as I mentioned in this video and a few other videos, if you're making over $60,000, federal aid is kind of irrelevant anyway. So you're really looking at the state aid availability and the private school availability, because at $60,000 adjusted gross or higher, there is no Pell grants. There is no supplemental education opportunity grants. There basically is no free help in most cases for you guys if you're making over $60,000. Let's just say that you're making $100,000 and you have one student going to college and you have 4 students at home. You're still not going to get any aid as far as the FAFSA form is concerned. The states would probably give you some aid possibly, as well as the private colleges would give you some aid as well as their own money. But unfortunately, from a federal side, once you get above 60, you have to have like a dozen dependents, to be honest with you, before they even consider you for additional Pell Grant eligibility, unfortunately. You're really looking at, can the state help us here, or can the private school help us, or can either one of them help us as far as helping out, especially because of the amount of people we have in the household. And the next question here, hi, Ed, good video as always. Thank you, appreciate it. Would you be able to publish a list of dates for when parents should complete their activities in application process? Talking about the FAFSA, CSS, etc. This year it's going to be tricky because no one knows when the FAFSA actually opens. So I can tell you that the CSS profile opens on October 1st. So I know that form can be filled out. The institutional forms can be filled out. The iDocs can be filled out. Verification can be filled out. But no one actually knows when the FAFSA can be actually filled out because they said they're going to open it in December. But nobody knows if it's December 1st, December 15th, etc. Next question from 5 days ago. Excellent video. Question, what if the school the kid is applying to have varying costs, but the Common App goes to all the schools? Like one school we can afford, but the other schools will require aid. Do you answer yes? Okay, so the question is coming in from the Common App question of how do you answer the financial aid question when the schools ask you if you're applying for need-based aid. You can actually choose individually. So I can say, no, I don't want aid at certain schools. I can say, yes, I do want aid at other schools, because that question is actually school specific. It's not the Common App question. It's not a question that goes to everyone. It's basically a specific school section in the My College section. When you're answering their questions, some colleges will ask you the question, are you applying for need-based aid? And in that section, if you say yes, it doesn't affect any other school. In the next application, if you say no, the other school doesn't see the no, and the other school that you're doing now doesn't see the yes from before. So the reality is the other schools don't see what you're doing in a specific question on the Common App of, are you applying for need-based aid? Okay, hopefully that helps you guys out. Next question coming in from 4 days ago. With recent news of West Virginia University limiting academic programs and projecting to have a $75 million deficit by 2028, where do we find out the financial health of college to make sure that we can avoid the schools that are struggling financially? Well, the way it works is this. Most schools have so much money, to be honest with you, in some cases billions of dollars, which doesn't really matter, doesn't really affect them. Most of the bigger schools, especially the public schools, the state universities and colleges, they rarely, if ever, go under. So I wouldn't be worrying about that. It's typically the smaller schools, in some cases the for-profit schools, some cases liberal arts schools. They give away so much money, they end up getting in trouble, and they end up unfortunately going bankrupt or going out of business, so on and so forth. But as far as the state schools go, West Virginia, Delaware, Penn State, UConn, so on and so forth, TCNJ, Rutgers, these guys aren't going out of business. So I wouldn't worry about them as far as financial considerations. It's really just the smaller schools that I would maybe worry about, or the for-profit colleges. Those are the ones that more than likely are the ones that are more in line, but I would say be the going out of business rather than the big guys. All right, next question here from 3 days ago. I'm trying to buy a car with my Pell Grant. Is that possible? I just want to put a down payment on a car. Realistically, it's not possible. From this perspective, most Pell Grants don't exceed the school's tuition cost. So the highest a Pell Grant can go, depending on your financial situations, between $6,000 to $7,000. So realistically, that's also for the academic year they're giving. If you're getting a refund, you're probably not getting a refund from the Pell Grant, to be honest with you. You're getting a refund from your federal loans. So give me an example. Let's say your tuition for the whole academic year costs $10,000. And let's say you're getting a $7,000 Pell Grant, which means you have $3,000 left over. But all of a sudden you get a refund check of, let's say, somewhere around $2,500. And you're thinking, wow, the Pell Grant just gave me a refund. That's not coming from the Pell Grant. That's coming from the federal loans. Because as a freshman starting off college, you're provided $5,500 in federal loans. So if the college costs $10,000, you're getting $7,000 in Pell Grants for the year. You have $3,000 left over, and you have a $5,500 loan, which you also accepted and basically said, give me that loan. Then that $3,000 is taken care of by the $5,500, which then generates over the 2 semesters a $2,500 refund. So realistically, you're not getting a refund from Pell. I've been doing this now 25 years, and I would say in my entire time of doing this at 3 different colleges I worked at, I've seen maybe twice where a student has gotten a refund check from grant money, from scholarship money. It almost never happened. Now, if it is the Pell Grant, technically, yes, you can utilize the Pell Grant to utilize that for a car because of the fact that part of the cost of attendance for college is transportation. So theoretically, yes, you can use the money for it. But I would double check with the financial aid office to see where is this refund coming from. Question here from 2 days ago. Ed, will the FAFSA delay affect federal student loan availability? It won't affect that at all. Don't worry about that at all. So the FAFSA form, no matter how late it comes into effect, how late you do the form, etc., it's not going to have any effect on the federal student loan process whatsoever. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. Mainly because of the fact that even if the FAFSA form becomes available, let's say December or January or February, even after you do the form, that form is basically evaluating for aid for the next academic year. So they're not evaluating aid for 23-24 year, they're evaluating aid for 24-25 year. So we're basically a year ahead before that happens. And then 2 days ago, this question here, I'm taking out a smaller loan, $4,000. Can I pay the entirety of the loan in a few months? I have some money coming in later. Yes, there's no pre-penalty to any of these loans, by the way. Whether you're going private loan, Sallie Mae, Discover, College Ave, SoFi, whether you're going state loan, PHEA, NJ Class, etc., or whether you're just doing a federal loan of any kind, direct loans, federal plus loan, etc. None of these loans have any kind of penalties to pay them off, so you can pay them off as aggressively if you want. And it is a key for you guys. I would try to pay these off aggressively as I can. That way you're not building up the interest. All right, and it looks like we got to the last question here from a few hours ago. Hi, Ed. I wanted to know if taxes have to be paid on external private scholarships, and the answer is no. The only time you have to pay any taxes on any scholarships, whether they be private scholarships, college scholarships, or anything coming in locally, etc., is if you're exceeding the cost of attendance. So let me give you an example. School costs $10,000. The school gave you $10,000 in scholarships and grants. You go out somewhere, you get a $5,000 scholarship. It goes to the school. They refund and give you back $5,000. Then that technically has to be taxed. That technically is taxed because you're going over the cost of attendance. The other way, though, that sometimes happens is school costs $10,000 all in whole year. They give you $10,000 in scholarships and grants. You bring in a private scholarship from outside into them for $5,000. What they do is they don't give you a refund. They just reduce the aid they've given you and take the $5,000 from the outside source. So essentially, it's rare this happens that scholarships create any kind of, especially for undergrad. It's rare that any time that these scholarships provide any or create any tax implications. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question there, Rob. And other than that, thank you everyone for watching today. I appreciate all the questions. Once again, you guys have any other questions, just leave them on any of the videos. As you guys know, every week, every Friday, or at least I try to every Friday, jump back on here, make a video answering all your questions in detail, put the video back on YouTube so everyone has answers to their questions. So if you guys have more questions, just keep them coming. And other than that, on the screen is my contact information. If you guys need help in the process for admissions or financial aid, feel free to send me a text message. I do meet with families on one-on-one through Zoom to help families out, or you can email me as well. And other than that, thank you for watching today's video.